Today we want to talk about terminating a steel wired armored cable, or SWA as it's known, or in some cases a SWA. I generally call it steel wired armored. There are a number of methods to making this off or terminating it. I'm just going to show you the method that we most use here. This is a completed two ends. It's completed, the terminations here, and you'll see this is what we would call the gland. And again, on the gland brass here, we would cover the gland with a shroud. Again, a lot of the time this cable will be mounted in areas that are, let me use the word hostile. Again, places where damage can occur to the electrical installation, and so we would mount the steel wired armored simply because the installation would require us to put something in there that is durable. So this would be mounted or used within, let's say, a mechanic's workshop, an industrial situations where we would feel that the electrical installation could get knocked, damaged by other types of equipment. I've got a few sections here. It's called steel wired armored because there actually is what we call steel wire armoring around the cable, and this is what provides us with the protection. This is what gives the cable its name. This is a two cores, steel wired armored. Do just want you to know that the regulations will allow you to use the steel wired armored as a CPC, but it is dependent upon what size conductor that you do have. And so on the smaller sizes, you can use the steel wired armoring as a CPC, but as you tend to get larger, tend to get to 16, 25 millimeters squared, the regulations do not allow you to use the steel wired armoring as a CPC, and so you would either have what we call a 3-core steel wired armored, or you'd run a separate CPC alongside this. Okay, now I've prepared a few of them and just cut a few. I do want to say that when you're making this off, that it is important that you actually cut the ends. Again, with a hacksaw, we don't want to use cutters or anything like that. Hacksaw, cut through so that we can get a nice edge to start with. Tools that you'll need to do this job, I prefer a hacksaw, not using a junior hacksaw. You can use a junior hacksaw. Some sort of spanners or a water pump, pair of pliers, because we've got the nuts to tighten up. At some stage we're obviously going to need a screwdriver and a pair of side cutters, and importantly an electrician's knife, which we will use. Okay, now again, this is just for demonstration purposes only, so I'm not going to cut a full length off, but let's get going. First thing I want to do with my steel wired armored is measure how much conductor that I need to have showing, or how much armoring I need to take off. And let's just say that I was mounting my steel wired armored into my twin socket box. I would normally allow about 50 mil out, so I would probably want to, where my thumb is here, I'd probably want to use that as a marker. and that's roughly where I would want to cut from. So, having marked this, I would get my hacksaw, and again, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to mark a shoulder around the cable itself. And I've got my shoulder. I've got my shoulder here, just again as a guide. Now what I want to do is actually cut into it a little bit more, but what I want to do now is actually just score the actual steel-wired armouring. So again, I'll put it down here. Now you can begin to hear I'm actually touching the steel-wired armouring. Now I just want to score it. I don't want to cut through it, remembering that there are conductors in here, so I need to be gentle. And so I'm listening, and what I do is I slightly turn it around so that I can score all the bits of the steel-wired armour, remembering that there's lots of steel-wired armouring that I need to score. So I'm going to take my time doing this. There's no rush, and let me just say that just take your time, and it will pay off. So I think I've done it there, but what I'm going to do is actually just check. I can just look inside my grooves, and I'll spin it round, and that looks pretty good to me. Looks pretty good to me. The next thing I'm going to do here is I need to remove the outer sheathing. And so remember, again, with any sharp implement, you want to always cut away from you. And so I am going to cut just above where my line is here. And so again, because I'm actually cutting just a piece. If this was a long section, we wouldn't find it would move so easy. But again, we're moving off, and straight away now I reveal the steel-wired armour. Now, again, if you can look closely, you'll actually be able to see all the scores around the bottom of this cut here, and I'm happy with all of those. And here's where they come in handy. Now, what I'm going to do is put my thumb on some of the scores, and then I'm going to take maybe three or four out, just like this. Don't want to take any more than that. I'm going to put my thumb where I've scored it, like so, and then what I'm going to do is just slowly bend them up and down, and because I've scored it, we can see that again it's coming out just nice and smooth. Now I'm just going to keep doing that, about 3 or 4 at a time. And this way you have to do. Some will take a little bit longer than others to come off, but again, the more you rush this, is the harder it will become, and so and you'll see why in a minute. And so I'm taking no more than 3 to 4 off at a time. Again, there we go. And as I have said, some people kind of get really frustrated with this, and they just want to take them all off at one time. It really doesn't work. You really have to just take them off 3 to 4 strands at a time. Now I'm actually left with the inner sheath, and we know inside this are our 2 cables. And now I'm left with my steel wired armouring cut short. And that's how I want it. Now I'm going to just reveal a little bit more of my steel wired armour. So I'm going to maybe measure down 25, about 25 mil. I'm going to just guess it, but about 25 mil, 30 mil max will be the way to go here. And all I'm going to do now is just score the outer sheathing. Just want to score it just to make a shoulder. I can feel I'm just going through it there. Absolutely great. Now I've made an outer sheath. Now again, I'm just going to use my knife. Again, on the bottom of that, and there we go. So we're about 25 to 30 mil. Now if you actually look at this now, you can actually see the top of my steel wired armors. They're not flaking out like this, and the reason why they're not flaking out like that is because I took my time in actually taking them off, and you'll now see the reason why. Next thing that I want to do is I want to get what we call the gland. Steel wired armors have to be terminated, and we have to terminate them using glands. Now this gland has I've just put this on for demonstration purposes, but you can either use a lock-in nut or a lock-in ring. Most people prefer the ring, but it's your choice. This is the gland. It's a brass gland, and it's in two sections here. And so we'll have the covering nut and the actual body of the gland. This is the knurling here. And we are going to connect this to our steel wired armouring. Now, as with everything, again, this would be what we call our gland pack. We'll pick this up from the local wholesalers. And again, within it we would have a shroud, generally two, they always come in twos. We will have the earth ring. If we were out in the trade, we'd call it the banjo, but it's the earth ring. And again, you'll see the gland, and this one comes with a lock-in nut. Okay. So first thing I want to do, I've already got one cut, but again, this is we would normally put it on this way. In fact, let me put it on this way. This is how I'd measure it up. I'd put it on the end, and I'd look at that, and I'd see, okay, I need to cut a little bit more off there. I can just see where the end is poking through. So what I would do is just use my side cutters and cut a little bit more off the end, and then remembering that this end would be somewhere else already terminated, then we would fix and put our shroud in. We need the shroud here because a lot of the time this cable will be installed outside and obviously subject to the weather. And so when we use the shroud is what covers what we call the gland body, and it will eventually look like this. The shroud will cover the gland body and thereby protecting it from weather and all the other horrible things that the weather brings. Okay, so next thing I want to do is with my gland body, I want to just unscrew it and get the top nut and put the top nut on there. Now this is going to again just leave my gland body to put on. But before I do that, I need to actually open my steel wired armors, these little bits of armouring, I need to open them up. And so what I would normally do is I'd normally take the top of this and just spin it round. And in spinning it round, as you can see, I'm beginning just to open it up a little bit. So just beginning to open it up, kind of just does it way neater than other things. Now I need to open it up because I need my steel wired armouring to rest on this knurling here. And that's why I need to open it up. So it needs to rest on this knurling here. So now it's opened up pretty sensible. And so I'm going to put my gland body on, and I'm going to push this right down into just on the knurling. Now when I reach this stage, I want to check that all the steel wired armourings are on the outside and none of them are actually on the inside of this gland. I also want to check that all my steel wired armouring as well are just straight. You can see this one here looks a bit crossed, and so what I'm going to do is just move that into its correct area so that it looks like I'm having a good hair day. That's what I'd normally say. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I've looked at this. This looks absolutely perfect, on the money here. And let me just say, before I screw this up, if I had rushed my taking or my stripping of this, what would happen is I would have some steel wired armours just sticking out like this, which would not work when I come to put my nut on. And this is why we take our time, so that we just have a nice flush area. Now this probably is the most trickiest bit of doing this. It's getting the nut, moving the nut up, and we want to now screw the nut onto the screw thread. Now sometimes it just goes on absolutely great. Other times you can be just there for a little while just trying to get it on. And so I'm going to screw this on, and look at that, absolutely great, behaving for me. Now I'm screwing it up, and what I'm actually doing is as the nut is moving up the gland body, it's actually compressing the steel wired armouring, making a good connection. Because remember, now this is only a 2-core piece of SWA, and so we're going to use the steel wired armouring as our CPC. In order to do that, we need to make sure that all our connections are tight. So I've got it hand tight here, and now what I'd want to do is get my spanners. Now within your toolboxes, you'll either have spanners, or you'll have a set of water pump pliers, whatever works for you. I'm going to use 2 spanners. These are 2 22mm spanners. We enjoy doing this, and what I'm going to do is just use the spanners again, just to tighten my join up. Maybe another turn, and that's looking good. Now, again, I will check it. I'll just try and pull it out, and as far as I'm concerned, it's in there, which means it's cramped onto the knurling, the nut's holding it in, and as you can see, my steel wired armours are just in there, and again, because I'm turning it, again, the steel wired armour will move, but that's not a problem. It always does that. Now my steel wired armour is locked in. The next process I would do is I'd want to reveal the cable inside the inner sheathing. Now again, to do this, I would use my knife. Got to be careful here, because now we're getting really close to the conductors, and again, the knives that we're using, we need to be cautious about how much pressure we apply. Now, again, I would normally just allow a finger's worth of sheath to remain, and I'll show you why in a little while. So what I'm going to do here now is just put a little shoulder on my inner sheath here. Now, a lot of this is a little bit of trial and error. You don't quite know if you got it right, and you may end up doing it again. What I'm going to do now is score down the center of the inner sheath, remembering to keep my fingers out of the way. I'm going to use a moderate amount of pressure, quite just easy. The closer I get to the end is the harder I'm going to press, because I want the end to open up. So, but I'm going to do that again because I don't think that was anywhere near enough. And again, it's not a problem. It's just a little bit of trial and error before you get it right. Now, what I would normally have is pliers. Every time I'd use a pair of pliers just to open it up. So I'm going to use my side cutters here, just to open it up. Now, what I want to do again is just see if I can pull away the sheathing, and I've drawn a line down the side. So what I'm expecting to happen is that as I pull the sheath away, it will follow the line. I'm trying not to pull the cables because I don't want to stretch the cables, just like we would teach you to do with a little bit of twin and earth. And so this can be a little bit clumsy, but this is by far the better way to do it, so we don't put any excess stress or pressure on the conductors, thereby stretching them. So again, just going to move them down like so. Okay, see if I can do that. Nope. So just going to see if we can pull this. Still not good enough, so I'm just being very mindful that I want to protect my conductors. There we go, we're opening up here. There we go. So again, I'm coming right up to, if you remember, I said let's allow maybe a finger length of inner sheath. Now again, you might just be able to see my line. I'm just going to go over it again, just because I'm right at the edge. Now, again, some will work better than others. Again, here we go. And kind of just revealing a nice smooth finish. Now, this is the reason why we have left some of the inner sheathing, because this will tend to move. And because it will tend to move, the inner sheathing here will just allow or just give these conductors that added bit of protection over the years of its service. Now, again, we know how to terminate ends, so that's not a problem here. The last thing that I want to show you is, let's just say we're going to terminate it into our socket box. And again, this is just purely for demonstration purposes. I would have liked this a little bit longer, but we are using the CPC, or the sheathing, the steel wire armouring, as the CPC. And in order to do this, we need to use the earth ring. The earth ring. This is very important. Our earth ring now sits. You can do this a number of ways if you choose to, but this is how we use our earth ring. Now, let's not use that one. Let's use this one. Now, our earth ring, I'm just showing you the back here, our earth ring will sit horizontally, just touching our box. So if I can turn it this way now, you'll see. Now, in order for me to lock that in, I would use the locking ring. Now, I need to lock it down in order to, let me just get that in, and then I need to lock it down so that this earth ring is locked tight against my gland body. In order to do this, we would use, oops, just come off there, we would use the locking ring. Now, again, I would use my spanners here, and I would use my water pump pliers, again, just to tighten this up, so that the end result is I'm not looking for this to be moving. It's clamped down tight on to the top of the socket box. Once I've done that, then I would need just to use a nut and a bolt, and use a nut and a bolt. And again, now let's get, this is what we call a fly lead. This needs to be the same conductor size as this conductor here, and it is. And so here's what I would do. On the inside, I would put my nut through, my bolt through, and again, so I maybe have him this way. What I'll do as well, again, screw him down nice and tight. Everything needs to be tight. Everything needs to be tight. So gland tight, earth ring tight, our nut and bolt tight. And again, and then now this becomes my CPC, in which I can put, again, if I'm going to put a socket on here, now I have the CPC as well as the line and the neutral cable. After I've done this, I would then just put my shroud on there, and that will be my job done. Remember, this is a metal box, so I could just terminate this into the actual back of the earth box, the back of the earth here, and then into the socket itself, or I could go into the socket first and then run just a tail into the back of the box. And there it is. Last but not least, let me just put that down there. Steel wired armoured are fixed with what we call cleats. Now, the definition of a cleat is it differs from a clip. It's not a clip because a clip only covers half of the cable. A cleat covers the full circumference of the cable, and so that's the difference there. And we would put our screw in there, and that's how we would fix the cable to whatever we're fixing to, whether it's a wall, a piece of wood, and there is the termination of our steel wired armoured. Thank you.